Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for having us. We were on some panels yesterday talking about other sort of industry topics. So it's great to be here in the tech track. My name's Sarojini McKenna. I'm a co-founder of Alien Worlds. We are the largest blockchain game, and we're going to be talking to you about how good tech fosters good community. So I'll let Dallas introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dallas Johnson. I'm fairly new to the Alien Worlds team. I've been working in various tech circles around in various areas, mobile and banking and so forth. But I've been working for quite a long time with the founders of Alien Worlds. So I'm thrilled to be joining the team and working on. Very excited with how the project is going. So yeah.
Cool, great. Thanks, Dallas. Okay, so we wanted to talk today. We're in the tech track, so we're going to give you some good technical sort of explanation about the architecture and construction of the project. But we wanted to tie that in with this concept of play to earn and community. So what is the relationship between technical architecture and community? Can your technical design lead to the things that you want in your project, which may well be a more decentralized base of participants, a sense of ownership amongst the participants so that they're really incentivized to add value to the ecosystem, to spend a lot of time there, and ultimately to evangelize it so that it can grow. So let's give you a little bit of background about Alien Worlds. I mentioned that we're the largest game or metaverse, blockchain game or metaverse in history by users. We're the second largest app overall after PancakeSwap. Have more users, for example, by some margin than an application like Uniswap. We launched our NFT sales and the metaversal tokenomics in the last quarter of 2020. So it's only been a few short months in which we've kind of gained that traction and grown to this size. We're the only metaverse that I know of that's constructed on 3 blockchains. So our token is on Ethereum, Wax, and the Binance Smart Chain. That's our token, Trillium. But the gameplay itself is located on only one of those chains and soon to be 2 of the chains. And so we have this multi-blockchain construction. Our intention with that was to locate the right gaming logic and the right assets on the chain that would be most appropriate for the user at that time, and also to an extent what the market would expect and would like to see. And to do that, of course, we had to have connective tissue that was developed between those chains and between those parts of the metaverse. And our sort of thesis here is that that open architecture across more than one chain has allowed our community to flourish. It's allowed more points of access into our technology, into the smart contracts, and ultimately has contributed to the extremely rapid growth and, in fact, the historic growth that we've experienced as a metaverse. So in this talk, please learn about the assets that we've located on each chain, the gaming functionality that's been located on each chain, the connective mechanisms between them, and where we're heading with this ideology of the right tech and the right assets on the right chain. Okay, so just for those of you that don't know Alien Worlds, here is our kind of ranking versus other decentralized applications, both just within the kind of game ranking and then also amongst all dApps. So you can see, so this is by users. This was a snapshot to the 26th of July of this year. You can see Axie Infinity, a name that I'm sure you know, Upland, a newer game called Crypto Blades, and Alien Worlds. They're really outranking by users those other games. And then you can see in terms of all dApps, names that you know, like Uniswap, PancakeSwap has quite a few more users now, but that's the Binance-owned decentralized exchange. Okay, so we were the first game to exceed 100,000 daily users. We now have about 2.4 million lifetime users, and as mentioned, we're the largest gaming dApp in history. Okay, and what does that mean then for NFTs? Our NFTs are bought by some of the most buyers. So here you can see in a 24-hour period to the 26th of July, Axie Infinity had more buyers, which you might expect if you know anything about the market right now, at about 14,500, but we had about 5,000, which exceeded, for example, NBA Top Shot and other projects that have a lot of sort of external IP that creates value in their projects. Our IP has been entirely generated inside the project so far. Okay, so I'd like to sort of introduce you to the concept of our blockchain technical blueprint. This was a document that we began writing right at the beginning of the project. It was just a Google Docs document, and every day when we would come up with new ideas and new ways of constructing things, we dutifully added to this document, and eventually it went up on the website, and it is still a live document that gets updated sometimes by me, pretty much, or other members of the team. And you can see us in there typing live. It's really been a fairly seminal part of communicating what the tech is doing to the outside world. Of course, the project would exist without us ever having documented it in that way, but it's been, I think, fairly significant in communicating to the outside world what we've been doing. And just to give you a sense of that, so the question here, does tech really help build community? Well, let's get a couple of community members to opine on that. After reading the technical blueprint, I knew I had found my new home. I love the metaverse we are building. I love the community we are building here in the metaverse. Looking forward to working together as the technical blueprint is realized more and more every day. And people actually read this. They read it in detail, and in fact, they will then write other reports on the back of it and all kinds of things. So I suppose one of the kind of why would that be? Well, what that's really doing is it's defining the rules. Now, the rules are not immutable in the sense that we do sometimes change the rules, but to have that relationship with the community, with the players, where at least we're trying at any given time to express our best guess at what the rules are, or our, at that time, what our conception of the rules are. I think that creates a much more equitable relationship that people have appreciated. It's also allowed people to learn, right? So we've articulated what we've been trying to do at any step, and people say, I have learned a lot about NFTs and blockchain itself. So let's look at our technical construction and how that empowers users. So this is our tokenomics. I'll just briefly take you through this. So the federation is that circle, that kind of mustard colored circle in the middle there. And the essential role of the federation is the in-game persona of the game founders, which is Dakota, the company that publishes Alien Worlds. And so the federation has created the smart contracts that govern inflation into the ecosystem. So every day there's some more of the fungible token Trillium that's released into the metaverse. That is divided up 80%, 20%. 80% goes to planet DAOs. We have 6 planet DAOs, or DAOs, that are on-chain DAOs, tokenized DAOs, that in which, like any DAO, all voting and value is recorded on chain and is governed by multi-sig permission. So we can come on a little bit later to exactly how that works. But we have 6 DAOs in competition for the scarce resource. So the more Trillium a DAO has staked to it, the larger that planet is, and the more of the daily inflation it attracts in turn. So the planets are competing with each other for staked Trillium. 20% of inflation every day goes to landowners. Land is an NFT in our metaverse, along with we have a whole suite of NFTs, and land is one category of NFTs. And landowners receive a certain amount of yield every day based on how many people are mining on their lands. So the federation, the in-game persona of the game publisher, Dakoko, manages that smart, or initially created that smart contract. The inflation runs into the metaverse every day. In time, the Federation will also be releasing the fighting and questing games and all future functionality, which will again have a Trillium allocation that will be devoted to those games. In time, also users will be paying the Federation fees in order to avail themselves of services. Services are mainly NFT related, so that if an NFT has been degraded through gameplay in any way, you can pay to have that topped up. That's a future item on our roadmap. And in turn, also users will probably be able to pay landowners for some of those services. There at the bottom, one interesting kind of dynamic, you can see users, and there's an arrow going to the 6 planet DAOs. So users have to stake, as I mentioned, into the planet DAOs, and that's how users themselves are kind of voting in essence for the planet DAOs, but in doing for an individual planet, and users can stake to more than one planet. But in doing that, they're also giving themselves governance rights on that planet. So the more Trillium you have staked into a planet DAO entity, the more voting power you will have on that planet. Which gives you more say. And of course, users can also run to be custodians or governors of planets. Okay, so to sum up that kind of section about how, in sort of broad terms, we're constructed, we're in play to earn NFT metaverse. Users are mining, proof of work mining the fungible token, Trillium, and NFTs, and we're comprised of DAOs and NFTs. Those are the two big pillars of our construction. So I'll pass this along now to Dallas, and Dallas can take us through a little bit more of the detail of our technical construction.
Great. Thank you, Saro. Yes, so as Saro mentioned, Alien Worlds is working currently across 3 main blockchains. It started its life and most of its coding and gaming logic on Wax, and then so that's why we see a majority of the logic, the Trillium contracts, and a lot of the DAO contracts and functionality like that currently exists on the Wax blockchain. And then through expansion, it's moved out through to Ethereum and Binance smart chains. Now, in order to do that, we've created a teleport mechanism. Teleport is effectively bridging contracts which have a portion that exists on both Wax and Ethereum, and then also Wax and Binance chain, and allow the transfer of tokens or transfer of assets. At the moment, it's the Trillium token, but also coming is the transfer of NFTs between those teleport contracts, or teleporting between the multiple blockchains with the help of oracles that look at both blockchains. Because one of the principles of all blockchains is that they pretty much all live inside their own isolated ecosystem and can only see things within each of their own blockchains. But by using the help of off-chain utilities or parties such as oracles, they're able to bridge between the multiple blockchains and in effect create the transfer of assets and value between the blockchains. The benefit of that is that we're able to bring users from all the different from Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain and of course Wax, and of course now that we've broken those bridges and we've bridged to Ethereum and Binance, the plan down the track is that we also start bridging across to other blockchains down the track as well as we see the markets arise. So on this this slide here, this breaks down some of the smart contracts and where they actually exist, and some of the key technology points that hold it all together. So yeah, as already mentioned there, we've got Wax in the middle holding the accounts and the smart contracts, the big mustard colored circle in the middle there. Binance has some smart contracts, NFT minting, and smart contracts related to missions. So missions is a new gaming concept which is starting on Binance Smart Chain, and it's just a different game with a lot of users that are starting up there. But in order to get onto there, we're needing to facilitate the teleporting from Wax onto Binance Chain. Likewise with Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is mainly used for large value NFT assets at this stage because Ethereum historically has had larger value token holders and more big ticket investors. So that's where we're seeing a lot of use there. We probably would see a lot of the actual continued game logic probably live more around Wax for the time being, just because Wax being an EOS.IO based blockchain gives us a lot of flexibility and a huge amount of power to be able to host all the huge number of users we have day to day with the throughput on that blockchain, but also the low cost transaction rate there. Now, there's a lot of other things. Then we move on to some of the other parts around the blockchain, going back and forth. We're wanting to open things up so that others can build onto the blockchain. And Sarah mentioned about the community being able to plug in and grow value. So by having things like the GraphQL component there, something we want to build out in the future, that's to open up engagement and API connection points so that other people in the community can build other marketplaces and perhaps other games and all sorts of things that they can add on to the blockchain and make use of the immutability and the smart contracts, which we've already got there, and many other things that we can attach on in the future as well. We've got quite a lot there in the roadmap. And here we're looking further into the smart contracts. So the smart contracts here are pretty much all the smart contracts in detail and how they communicate within WAX. So already mentioned, we've got the Federation contract there. The token contract, Federation contract is minting out tokens on the token contract. Trillium tokens come from the token contract, but then also the DAOs, each of the planets which run as DAOs have their own specific token contract, which can be used for voting rights and other useful features, which will come more into reality as the DAOs get fleshed out in the future. And I probably don't have too much time to go into a lot of other details about all the other things there on the smart contracts. And then we're jumping through to transferring of assets. Yeah, so I already mentioned earlier on about how we're able to transfer assets between the different smart contracts, or the blockchains particularly. And this is with the help of the oracles. And this slide here goes into more details, explaining the role of oracles, where they're looking at transfers that happen on each chain and then transferring across the other chain. Right now, it's working for Trillium tokens, but the same principle can be applied and is being built out and applied with NFTs as well. And we're looking at some even other services like the DApp network, which is providing and building out NFT bridges between different smart chains.
Cool. So we'll just, thanks, Alex. Thank you.
So
we'll just wrap up by saying that I think that sort of the track record of what we've built is that it does allow this sort of decentralized construction across chains in which everything is prescribed and communicated, does allow more users to interact with the system, to scrub data from the chain and offer commercial services on the back of that. This really is a blockchain growth story in the sense that users are able to add value to the system and in fact are incentivized to create commercial value, and they can do that because they can see all of the actions happening on chain and they can see the data that's risen on chain. If we have time, we could ask our poll question.
Let's go ahead and do the poll question, and then afterwards there are some questions in the chat.
Sure.
If you don't mind going into the chat to answer them by typing, that would be great.
So in a DAO-based metaverse like Alien Worlds, what are the DAOs free to do? Offer their own game smart contracts out of each of their Planet DAO accounts. Use the Planet DAO's Trillium reserves. Issue their own NFTs. Alter inflation mechanisms for the metaverse as a whole. I will submit my answers. Do we get to see answers? Okay. Be interesting. I mean, most of you can probably tell that 1 to 3 were correct there, and 4, altering inflation into the entire system is not something that the Planet DAOs can do, but they have a huge amount of autonomy over their own affairs, which actually ultimately amounts to quite a lot of the value within the system.